Hey guys, Laura with Garden Answer. I just got through making this super cute spring wreath out of pansiolas, and I thought I'd show you how you can make one yourself. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is a living wreath form, and you should be able to find one of these at your local nursery. If not though, we will provide a link in the description below to a place where you could order one. And what living wreath forms are just flat-backed forms with a planting reservoir. And so they're meant to, this flat side is meant to sit on the door, gate, or wall, wherever you're going to be putting it, and then this is the front. For this project though, I'm going to be removing the back. We're not going to even use this piece. I'm going to set it aside. We're going to be planting this way and using this as the front. So this is going to be facing forward. So the first step is going to be lining it with moss. I'm going to be using preserved sheet moss. It's a Super Moss brand product. I really like it. So I've got some in this bowl, and I've got water in the bowl too. So I get the moss nice and wet and then wring a good piece out. It's a lot easier to form when it's wet. And then we're just going to line the whole form just by laying the moss gently inside. And make sure not to get the moss too thick. You want to still have a nice size planting reservoir. Okay, so that's pretty good. I've got it pretty well lined. It doesn't have to be perfect because in the end you can go in and poke little pieces of moss into any holes that you find. So the next step is lining it with burlap. So I've just got a piece, this was a scrap piece of burlap at work. I'm just going to lay it over the top and kind of gently push it in to the reservoir. Okay, and now I'm going to cut the burlap, and I'm going to leave about an inch lip around the whole edge. And before I cut the center of the burlap, I'm going to fill the reservoir just a little of the way with soil. Now I'm going to just cut an X in the burlap, and then I can use those flaps later to fold over the soil. Yeah, that's perfect. And so the reason I actually use burlap, I think I forgot to mention it earlier, is because it acts as a barrier for the soil so that the soil won't escape. This moss isn't super thick, so if I didn't have burlap in there, I would have a mess. I mean, I think that dirt would eventually all work its way out. And it also helps the moss stay in place too. It gives the moss something to adhere to once it dries. So now I get to plant. I've got some gorgeous pansiolas for this project. I have got Anytime Iris, which I think is my favorite one. It's so sweet and so springy looking. And then Anytime Plum Good, which is a dark velvety purple, really pretty. I'm gonna take it out of the pot, and I'm gonna remove quite a bit of the root ball. These aren't super well rooted, so it's perfect. And just roughing up the bottom of their roots won't hurt them one bit. Kind of like that. You can see there's still a lot of roots there. So that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna probably use 6 or 8 plants in this wreath. So I'm just gonna go every other, I think. Purple, blue, purple, blue. So here I go. Tessa, what are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Good girl. Now that I've got all the plants in there, I'm just going to gently poke my fingers around in there just to make sure I've got soil covering the root balls really well. I think I do. Chicken's laying an egg. Okay, now with the extra burlap, actually, I think I'm gonna rinse my hands off. There's my bowl of water. So now with the extra burlap, like the little pieces in the middle, I'm just gonna go ahead and fold them in over the soil. So around the outside, it didn't end up with much of a lip of burlap, and that's okay. We'll use moss to tuck in and around the plants to keep the soil in. You can leave a little bit more than an inch lip if you want to. When you put the pansiolas in, or whatever plants you're using, and the soil, that extra weight, you just kind of need that extra slack in the burlap. So you can use a larger lip so you have more to work with, or you can just use your moss. So right here, this was a little bit of the moss left over from when I lined it, which is great. So I can use that to fold up around the pansiolas and tuck it in nice and tight. But then areas like this, see, it didn't have a solid amount of moss around it to begin with. So areas like this, I can just grab an extra piece of moss, and we will tuck it under the wreath form and over that bare spot. And then around the pansiola, just like that. And that will keep that soil in there nice and firm. The last step is to wrap the whole thing in fishing line or wire, and that's what helps hold everything in place so you can hang it right away. So to do that, we're going to tie on to one side of this wreath form on the outside. So you'll cut it off, just a long piece like 2 to 3 feet, and we're gonna gently feed it between the plants, and then we'll wrap it around the wreath form on the inside, and then pull tight. And then we're gonna go back through the next set of plants. So we'll move down this way, holding onto our fishing line right here. I know it's probably hard to see. Feed it through, and then wrap it around the outside, and pull tight. And then we're gonna move down the next set of plants, and we'll just continue doing that all the way around the wreath form. When your line gets too short, just tie it off and start a new piece. It's all done, and it turned out so pretty. So the reason I use the form backwards, I plant from the back side, is because on the front, and I don't know if you can see it at this point, but there's a line of metal that runs right around the middle in the front, which means that you would need to plant on both sides of that piece of metal in order for it to look full and round. And these root balls are just too big. If you've got smaller plants like little 4-packs, that would be perfect. So you can do it either way. I just like to do it from the back because all the plants face forward. It looks really pretty from the beginning, and they will fill in, and it won't look like such a straight line on the side. It kind of looks like that right now. But they'll fill in beautifully once we start fertilizing, and it has a week or two to just kind of be. And you can hang this right away. That is the beauty of this project with all the fishing line, or if you used wire, that holds everything in, and you can just go hang it up right now. To water this thing, I recommend taking it off the surface you've got it on, drenching it with water just like you normally would, let it drain, and then hang it back up. It's that easy. Anyway guys, I hope that you enjoyed this project. I'm gonna go hang it up right now, and I hope you give this a try. See you guys in the next video. Bye. Tessa found us. Oh, she doesn't like to be left out of the projects. You just got a bath, didn't you? Uh-oh, right on my soil scoop. Okay, didn't that hurt? She's such a pretty girl. You're getting to be an old girl though.